Welcome Virgo to your in-depth weekly forecast for week commencing the 1st of April for the Ascendant, the Sun or the Moon. On the screen now I'm showing the event chart at the start of the week. You can see your ruler Mercury is in the 8th house. Brilliant if you're wanting to check out and investigate your joint finances or investments. But of course Mercury is set to go retrograde later in the day. But Neptune, the planet of dreams, which has had such a potent influence upon you in terms of relationships since 2012, is in a very tricky right angle with the Moon, which is in the tender 4th house. In the sign of Sagittarius, the Moon is looking for truth. But the 4th house can be where we need to be protective or a little bit more sheltered. The right angle between Neptune and the Moon can create a little bit of confusion, but it may not be your confusion. It may be that someone you're interacting with in the family seems out of sorts or keeps changing their mind or is a little bit hard to reach. And that's why with Mercury going retrograde, it's important to understand that this is going to be a psychological time for you, and probably most of all around your relationships. Because as Mercury starts to retrace its steps, the 8th house is where we're most invested, most devoted. And it can be where we're going to encounter some big transformations. And if we think about it, Mercury is the ruler of merchants, so it can be about business. The 8th house can be about our long-term earning. So if you're not particularly happy in a job, maybe through to the 25th of this month, you are going to be investigating other opportunities. But there's part of you that can work very, very well with others. And that's emphasized at the start of this week by a brilliant link between Venus, the planet of relating, and the part of fortune. So a relationship can be lucky for you this week. But Mars moved into this area last week and has probably given you an ability, if you want to use it, to be a bit more robust around your boundaries. Now Mars is going to connect to Saturn later this week at the weekend, but in the middle of this week Venus applies to Neptune. So there could be two outcomes with this, Virgo, to be honest. You could be extremely fortunate and have a connection this week which is breathtaking. But on the other hand, conversely, you could get to a point in an existing relationship, and it doesn't have to be a romantic one, where you really feel that you've had enough, that you've done your very best to reach into another person's situation, be sensitive to them, supportive and caring, and still you're getting what can feel like a lack of appreciation or respect, or the cold shoulder. If that is the case, the cluster of energy that develops on Friday with Venus in your 8th house, moving into Aries, technically debilitated, forging a link to Pluto in your sector of service, the 6th house, that can give you a lot of insights into where you feel valued or not. But the Sun applies to the North Node for the first time since 2006 in Aries, and that 8th house energy is also ramped up furthermore by the Sun inching towards Chiron. The 8th house is where we want to feel a sense of deep, deep meaning. And if we don't get a sense of deep, deep meaning, it can be a very lonely place to be, I feel, because it's a very psychological area. So with the cluster of energy in the 7th house, looking at the start of the week, perhaps confusing, but also the potential for some magic. Then Mars applies to Saturn over the last couple of days. You're really going to make some big decisions this week, I feel. If there is someone peripheral in your world who hasn't really given you what you feel you deserve, you may decide that you want to move on, because the 8th house can be about change and it can be about endings. Now, it may be that you won't make the decision instantly because the influence of the solar eclipse, which occurs on Monday, will provide a backdrop over the next 6 months. But big changes about how you earn money, how you marshal your resources, how you connect to others, where you feel validated, where you can enjoy intimacy, yes, even sex. And if those areas are evolving in a dynamic and positive way for you, all well and good. But if they're not, this could be a time when you may seriously need to think again. So Mercury's retrograde, obviously something you have a great affinity to because you're very connected to its energies, asks you to discriminate one of your key talents and reanalyze something that may not be particularly obvious that you have to think into. It's time to don the proverbial detective's mag to divine what's really working for you, whether it's in a practical sense financially, whether it's in a spiritual, intimate sense in a close romantic tie, or whether it's just your alliances with people in general. Are you getting what you need back? That's the big question for you this week, Virgo. And there's a lot of compulsion there for you to take the action to make you feel that things are evolving in a way that's meaningful to you. It's been a real pleasure being with you. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a great week. If you've yet to do so, please like, comment, share, or subscribe.